Art. No, this is not PE. Okay, everybody, we'll make a start. So welcome everyone to the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee today. First of all, we'll call for apologies, but we have everyone here, so that is nice and easy. Do we have any disclosure of members' interests on any of the items? No. Any late items? Nothing. Okay, we'll just confirm the order of the meeting, which I think is very straightforward. Move in a seconder, please. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Bruce. All in favour? Carried. Okay, our first item is the Ahuaki Waipa Community Spatial Plan, and of course, Kirsty and Vanessa are here. Are these yours? Yeah. Oops. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All yours.
Oh, fantastic. Morena, everyone. We are here today to present a report on approving an option for our second round of engagement, which is the community participatory process. This is following endorsement by Ahuaki Project Control Group on the 27th of April and following some discussion with elected members on during a workshop on the 11th of April. I'm just going to take the report as read for now, and we'll answer any question. Myself and Kirsty can answer any question that you may have.
Thanks, Vanessa. Okay, so the report's been taken as read. We have questions. We'll start with Monty and then to Claire.
Yeah, just the possible unresolved or contentious issues. Do you have a sense of what kind of things are developing? Because it kind of influences how you think about this.
So through the chair, you're aware that we've received approximately 2,000 pieces of feedback through the community engagement phase undertaken in February and March. So we are well advanced in terms of working through that, analysing that. We are still, though, working through to identify what possible changes might need to be considered in respect of the revised draft spatial plan. So we haven't, I guess, locked down a list of possible complex unresolved issues, and we are hoping that we'll be able to work in partnership with the University of Waikato, a few approved today. One of either of the two options presented for that enhanced community participatory process. I guess some possible issues that come to mind that we have heard through our face-to-face engagement through the various community engagement opportunities in towns and villages, and also through the survey relate to the economy. And in particular, we heard earlier the importance of the rural economy within Waipa, acknowledging that we haven't paid particular focus to that within our current economic development strategy and the review of that, which is currently underway. So that's a possible area, particularly as we balance growth and the impacts of that on our Waipa communities. The environment features strongly as we engage in terms of, and I guess the interconnectivity around transportation, in which we received a large number of responses from the community. Again, considering the impacts of growth, feedback around the protection of our peat lakes and planting, recognising biodiversity. So that's potentially another area if we have regard to climate change, and also I think acknowledging that a report is coming through to the Audit and Risk Committee relating to a recommended approval of an audit, KPMG audit on the climate change governance and an improvement program that's been developed. So that's another possible area. Growth in housing, we have had feedback, and there is, I guess, there are those that are supportive, those that don't sort of want to change. So that's an area where there is mixed feedback. We've got Plan Change 23, Papakainga Plan Change underway, but in some of our conversations, what we're hearing is from parts of our community, this intergenerational communal type living is something that non-Māori would like to further explore. From Māori, we're hearing that, you know, housing affordability issues are wider than Papakainga. So that's potentially another area, but just, I guess, urge caution that we don't want to, I guess, present a fixed list to you today because we're still working through that analysis.
Thanks, Kirsty. Claire?
Yeah, thanks, Kirsty and Vanessa. I mean, I'm really excited about the possibility of taking Ahuaki where we've got to and, you know, taking it to the next level and flexing, well, I don't know, muscle, but certainly trying our hand at some of these more novel approaches to get better participation and buy-in from our community. But I do feel it's absolutely critical that we are on the same page, that this is the problem we're trying to solve, and participative democracy methods are the best way to solve it. I don't want us to commit to this when actually the problem we end up with doesn't need to be solved that way, because this could be more expensive. It could also be a huge demand on the time of the people that participate. And I guess would be high profile as well. So I'm thinking, is our reputation going to take a hit if we're seen to perhaps be wasting money or wasting time or trying something and we haven't really lined up our ducks and there's a compelling reason to do it. So I appreciate the examples you gave do have the potential to, I think, to lend themselves well to participative democracy processes, but I'd like to have those worked out before we actually make a commitment to it, and to understand, you know, like if we choose that way, so what are going to be the better outcomes, you know, what, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, what I've read about, these processes are used where you usually have quite contentious issues where one part of the community is either going to benefit a lot or be penalised or, you know, suffer. And it's a way to get buy-in right across a broad spectrum so that we're kind of pretty united on it, or at least know the issues really well and how to best manage them. And yeah, some of those things do have that potential, but not all of them. Yeah, so I'm just a bit cautious. I did have a bit of a chat with Liz about it yesterday, and from that conversation, I can sort of, I would support something that's focused in a community, you know, like in Pirongia, for instance, some of the issues that have come out around public buildings. And so one of those processes might be really good to resolve all those issues around that. But a broad district-wide thing, yeah, that's a different kettle of fish.
Kirsty, I'll let you reply. I think this is a really important resolution. So I'm going to offer everyone the opportunity to go around the table, because this is how we engage. The spatial plan is so critical, I think. So yeah, Kirsty, and then like I say, we'll work around the table.
Through you, Madam Chair, there's a lot wrapped up in that, and thank you for your considered feedback, Councillor St Pierre. I guess just a first point to make is that we are going to be following up with the University of Waikato, and they have led and participated in these democratic processes previously. This wouldn't be their first, I guess, cab off the rank here in Waipa. So we would be looking to them for some guidance. We want to work with them to ensure that there is robustness to the process. In terms of the feedback that we receive from our communities through that engagement process, you know, that was quality. It was, you know, open dialogue. We had people that were engaging with us that we don't see venturing into the council chamber. And that's what's really exciting about, how can we ensure we successfully deliver on our vision to build connected communities? That's why we're all here. It starts and ends with people. So how can we most effectively deliver on that vision? And we think that what we've presented to you in our recommendations is that way. What we have also, I guess, anticipating is that when we connect in with the University of Waikato, that we would be sharing with them our suggestions as to, possible complex, contentious, unresolved issues, but we would also be ensuring that we come back to you as elected members. We would anticipate that we would be doing that in the form of a workshop, and we would also be connecting through the PCG.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Kirsty. Because I'll kick the ball off. I was thinking that, when we look at our annual plans, our long-term plans, we never have that second level, secondary opportunity to go back to our communities. And I think this is what we're trying to achieve here. So we've been out to the communities. We've kind of had our first level list of things that is important to those communities, going back now and I guess shortlisting what is actually possible and how do you want your community to grow. So our larger CBDs, they have the usual growing pains, I think, not too different. We are unique, but they have the usual parking, transport, all of those sorts of things. But it's those outlining villages that probably have some specialist needs right now. We heard from them what they are. So, and I reflect back to Karapiro village, we've got a school over on one end of the, the community on the other. I think about Kiki, I think about Ohalpo, looking to, explode with potentially in the future. So those communities want to help design. And I think going back now and going back potentially, to some individual communities again and having those hard conversations probably about what's going to be our shortlist and what's likely. So that's kind of how I see this kind of working. And that's why I'm really supportive of this. I think this is a secondary, closer, a real, I guess, engagement that we probably have never done before. So I'm really excited about this. Yeah. All right, so we'll go around the table. Philip, do you want to start off?
Yeah. Thanks, Liz, and welcome, and thanks and congratulations on your award and things like that. It's really well achieved by not only you two have worked really hard and been the face, but the whole team and everything like that. But this has obviously been planned really nicely around the long-term plan and in the future. And as Liz talked about, it's the main towns there have their normal growing pains, but the great feedback from the community was going to those smaller little towns, and they've got to be heard as well. And they have not their issues, but they have their interests that they want to get across to us, and so it's really great hearing from them. So this is going to be a really great project. So well done and congratulations on your award. So thank you.
Thanks, Philip.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair. Totally support what everyone has said so far. And just to add to it, I think this is definitely the right track. You guys are absolutely totally support this recommendation, and for a couple other reasons too. And that I think it really empowers those people and really makes them believe that we're listening and that we're actually being genuine. The ones who have shown an interest, who do turn up, who are the ones that write the submissions against a whole bunch of things. You'll find them really involved, I think. But it's also going to bring on another layer of people that actually, because this is, I'm figuring quite different to what a lot of councils do. So this is quite new, though it's not new for maybe some overseas places, but it's going to make people believe in that we actually do listen, that we do go back, that we do have a second opportunity to hone and to focus things in. And the other thing I think it might bring is there's some more people at elections. This is side spin. Actually, because they're more engaged, put their hand up to be around this table and around community board tables. I'm really hoping that'll be a side spin to this. So yeah, well done.
Good comment. Lou, anything?
very supportive of it, and I think it's got some great positivity. As I say, and I agree with what Liz said earlier, was that we traditionally do our consultation, then we come back and deliberate. Here we're going back again, and we're allowing the community to actually formulate some of the policies and ideologies that we're going to develop. And after all, it is our community, and they are the ones that are impacted. One of the biggest criticisms I've set in public life is that council never listens. It's common, a common statement to us all. So I think that if we can actually take that away and say to people, look, we'll go back and consider this in the light of what your decision is, whether we adopt the Citizens Assembly approach or the World Cafe, although I think the Citizens Assembly is quite good in effect in a couple of ways, in the fact that you actually come a decision on each thing collectively, rather than having groups coming together and are discussing a lot of issues at once. But that's just my personal thought. Thank you.
You did it on, okay. Congratulations, you two, fantastic. I was following up on Lou's with the World Cafe that's in the recommendation. How will that work as such? You've got focus groups and then you all get together. Could you elaborate on that, please?
So for the Work Cafe, it's actually same kind of setting. So a random selection of participants, which is representative of our future community. So it would have been actually the same process or methodology with the Citizen Assembly or the Work Cafe. But in the Work Cafe, it's about actually discussing, debating specific topics over a couple of days. So you probably have one workshop, one topic kind of per day. And then you have actually people who have made, you end up with a layering of decision. So let's say first day will be on growth and housing. Then you have the same people will have debated growth and housing changing groups, and we'll go actually on transport, provide their assessment on transport. So it's a layering of information that the Citizen Assembly is very much an intense debating deliberation over what needs to actually come out. And as we mentioned in the report, it could be quite risky when we are attempting to go for a special consultative process, and that's why we recommended the Citizen Assembly. So the first day when we are currently planning for the Work Cafe as being our recommendation, we would get actually a couple of days on onboarding. So discussing with those group of participants what the issues or the debating the topics will be, then 2 or 3 days of workshops, and following that, having actually an entire day of recommendation, which is actually the kind of concluding of what the discussion have been on each topic. To go back on just answering maybe a few questions as well, I think we need to contextualize really what the committee engagement has provided us in February and March. It wasn't just about Ahuaki, it was LTP pre-engagement, and it led actually some reassurance as to what LTP business case were to actually going through this round of LTP. And there is, aspiration for this second round of engagement to do the same when it comes about drafting the follow-up of our strategies. It is the start of implementing Ahuaki with the community and by the community. That's really how we see it. So the Work Cafe will allow this topical discussions and topical kind of discussions on recommendations that they made for council to consider. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So those selected groups that you made, let's put on the Hanapuri or Harpo, would you invite so many people and they came in here? Is that when all the brainstorm? How does that happen? No? Sorry.
I guess we would again work in partnership with the university to determine the detail, but I guess one of the messages that we'd like to convey to the university is the importance of that connection with place, and that there are issues where particular, have meant something in a particular place. I think just in terms of you asked the question, Councillor Thomas, about the World Cafe as distinct from the Citizens Assembly that Councillor Brown, provided support for, I guess, two key points to make there. Citizens Assembly, it would be empowering those individuals to have decision-making authority. The World Cafe would be recommendation back to elected members for decision-making. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, a great question actually, Bruce. That's sort of answered quite a lot of things for me too, because and that distinction I think is really quite important, because if we forfeit, or what the word, our decision making, but I mean we never quite do that, but if we actually went against the recommendation, man, that would not be a pretty picture. Look, I'm very keen to get the university on board and use their experience and skill sets and all the rest of it. I'm supportive absolutely of the recommendation. I do have a couple of, and one you brought up, you know, I know you will have thought of this, but Ahuaki was to inform the LTP when they're now they're kind of running in parallel, I suppose. And I just think it's really critical that I suppose they both have real importance, and it's kind of a workload thing as well. That's I guess a little concern.
Through you, Madam Chair, if I can respond to that particular issue. So as Vanessa mentioned, the community engagement has in effect formed the pre-engagement for the LTP. You'll recall that for the 21-31 LTP, we went out with the community barbecues, and that was our pre-engagement. So this time around Ahuaki, but fair to say that we've been working with activity managers and business case writers almost right the way through in terms of inputting to the development of the possible future scenarios, the draft scenario, now working through the feedback and a workshop as they are preparing business cases for the 24-34 long-term plan. I think we're really excited by this particular models of enhanced community engagement. It's something that's been signalled through the Future for Local Government review. It's something that we see if we start here now with Ahuaki at this particular point, we could actually grow it as we implement not only Ahuaki but also our long-term planning as we move through those long-term plan cycles. We're confident. We've connected with the LTP project team, with Nat in her role as acting comms and engagement manager, and we think that there are real benefits actually by bringing these two formal consultation processes together. It's presenting a holistic view as to what is important for our Waipa communities, how we can actually plan through development and implementation. And so there are some really great opportunities for us to frame up that engagement and consultation process for both. Thank you.
No, thanks for that. And I was confident that that would be the case, of course. I guess the only other thing is being realistic when we go back to the communities. It's a real balance between, you know, being visionary and not promising what we can't deliver. And look, most people I think are quite realistic, but yeah, it's just keeping our feet on the ground while we're still looking up in the clouds, I guess. It's finding that balance. But yeah, you know, I'm totally in favour.
Thanks, Andrew. Come around the side, any comments, questions?
Fully support your recommendation. Participatory democracy spins my wheels. I think it's quite exciting. I wouldn't have supported a citizens assembly with any kind of binding authority. I think that lacks accountability. That needs to reside here. So I think you've hit it just right. And finally, just, and I'm sure you won't do this, but I wouldn't be wanting to see you relinquish too much control to Waikato University. Universities are tasked with sort of pushing the boundaries. Don't want this to become a social experiment. So you want their expertise, but I want you guys to keep it on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, thanks for those comments.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's been a great project, and let's try and get more people involved and see it through to the end, so everyone's got the good buy-in.
You're right. Okay. Roger.
Okay, thanks through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the process of the spatial planning. Just going through your benefits and constraints, you mentioned the time frame, etc. I don't think that's an issue. I think the fact is that we need to get this correct, and the extension of 4 months, I think, is immaterial. I do have a question of 100K per cost, and I just wonder, in this time of really tight annual planning, where that 100K is going to come from. So I'd really like your idea on there.
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair, if I can respond to that. So I think that was option 3 as it was initially presented for discussion with elected members and with the PCG. Since then, following discussions with the University of Waikato and also with our comms and engagement lead for Ahuaki, looking at other projects that have been undertaken, looking at the IAP2 level of engagement and consultation, we have recently advised the PCG that an indicative figure is more in the vicinity of $50,000, not the 100,000. We think that is more of a citizens' assembly approach rather than what we're proposing here in the recommendation.
Question still stands. Where's that going to come from?
So through you, Madam Chair, we think that that's at the sort of the upper end, but also just prefacing that this is indicative costing. We believe that this can be managed within existing budgets, so within the project budget, and also given the alignment with LTP, there is also funding.
That's what I was looking for, is from within existing budgets. Thank you. The other thing that you mentioned here is that you envisage that before we go out with the special consultative procedure, then all unresolved and contentious issues will be dealt with. What happens if the special consultative process throws up an unexpected, really contentious issue?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess that is a possibility. I guess what we're signalling to you is that we are making every best effort through staff, elected members and community to ensure that we listen and that we respond to what we hear, and that we are open to making changes and finding effective ways forward. If in the event that there are unresolved or contentious issues through the SCP process, then we as staff would be needing to provide you with recommendations, options, so that you are fully informed and able to make robust decisions.
So that would come back to us, and that's good. I still really endorse this process, because I think this is a development of local democracy, which is really good. And as you say, this could develop some kind of precedent that in terms of those major planning documents in the future, then we have a process that fully involves our community far more than we do currently, which I think is great. So yeah, very endorse it.
Thank you, ladies. Look, 100% behind your recommendation there in terms of the way forward. I guess for me, it's a difference between, if we stop there, or we did some other way of addressing the information that our communities entrusted us with, it would just be hearing. But I guess going back to them again, is that means we're actually listening. And that's kind of the difference. And I think that the richness of the level of engagement, the trust that it can build, and the genuine reflection, I guess, of our community in the stuff we do comes from that process of actually listening. So yeah, but 100% behind your proposed course of action. We're all into it. Yeah, it's like having a second date, right?
Almost. Okay, I'm going to give the final word to Gary as the main sponsor of the of this project, because I think we For me, I just kind of feel we, underestimate what this is going to achieve for Waipa. And of course, want to sort of, and I know it was a bit of a labour go around the room, but again, this is unique. This is such a gigantic opportunity for us as a district, kind of lead the way as how engagement can be done, and look at some of the ways that we might be perceived as councillors as well. So.
Interrupt for a minute there. Look, this we've kind of got quite a legacy, I think, at Waipa for doing some really exciting engagement. I'm not saying we necessarily always get it right, but we have done really well in this space for some time. In fact, I'd have to say I regularly at local government events, and people often say to me, "Oh, you guys do really well in this space. I see you won that award or this award, or I remember that campaign you guys ran so many years ago." Blah blah blah. So we do have a capacity and an appetite in this organisation to do good engagement with our communities. So for me, this is just upping the ante. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, and absolutely agree with all of them. When I look at the health of our democratic arrangements or the way in which we engage with communities, I think the statutory processes that we traditionally follow cut across that. Going out with statement of proposal and then having a limited time within which to make a submission and inviting people in to hear a submission, and then somehow mashing all that together through a meeting and giving people a 1-paragraph response a month or so later really will disenfranchise people. So as I think about Ahuaki, a 30-year plan that deals with land use and community outcomes is going to be something that needs to be tested with the community following all of the submissions that they've landed with us. So it will be embraced by some, and there will be others who will have issues that they want to take further with us. The critical thing about participatory democracy is it's a great opportunity for us to test where we've landed and give you confidence that when we come back with this finalised plan, it'll give you confidence to move forward or not. And I think that's the major value in this process.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, any last, I think, yeah, Kirsty.
Through you, Madam Chair, if I might just ask for indulgence, Councillor Coles made reference to an award and we didn't know about it, so we weren't able to be there to accept it. I'd just like to, if I can, comment that I couldn't be more proud of the super efforts from our committed team of staff, consultants, people from across our organisation and elected members for what we've been able to achieve for our Waipa community. So yeah, thank you to all involved. Kia ora.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, we have a recommendation, A and B. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? So Councillor Coles, Councillor Brown, all in favour? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Right, that brings us to the end of our meeting.